Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 in the Students and Teachers series. In part 1 video, we saw how to grade each student based on different weightages. For assignment 1, there was a weightage of 5%, assignment 2 carried a weightage of 10%, assignment 3 carried a weightage of 10% as well. The midterm exam had a weightage of 35%, followed by the highest in the final exam with a weightage of 40%. Now, based on these weightages, we also calculated the final mark, and the final mark was calculated using the weightages for each assignment and the exams, and that's how we derived at the final mark. In this video, let's take this a step further and let's do some analysis for each student and also the number of students who scored more than or equal to 70% and the number of students that fell below the 50% mark. Now for the first one, we can use the countif function because the countif function takes in two arguments, which is the range and the criteria. So for assignment 1, the range lies on the grading sheet. So I'll click on the grading sheet, and these are the marks or the range for assignment 1. I'll press a comma, and the second argument is for the criteria. So that's on our analysis sheet, and I don't need the sheet reference here. So I can delete this and I can click on the 70% here, but we are also looking for more than or equals to. So we can type this using double inverted commas, more than sign, equal to, close the inverted commas, use an and then we can click on cell D1. So if I close this and press enter, you can see that 11 students performed more than 70% or equal to 70%. Now if I have to do it for all of the other assignments and the exam, I don't want to keep on going to the grading sheet and coming back to the analysis sheet. So what I've done here is I've written the range reference for each assignment. The first part is the sheet name followed by the exclamation mark, which is important for the formula reference, and then I have the range reference, which is E6 to E30. So let's see how we can do this using the countif function. Equals countif, the range. Now for the range, I have the range in cell B3, but since this is text, I can use the indirect function because the indirect function takes text as a reference. So I'll reference cell B3 in this case. Let's close the bracket. That's the range. And if I go to the formula bar and I highlight the indirect function and click on function key F9, you can see that it gives me a bunch of numbers or a bunch of percentages. That is basically the reference from the sheet grading. So I'll press Ctrl Z and let's give it the criteria now. The criteria is more than or equal to 70%. So here I will type double quotes, more than, equals to, close the double quotes, use an and I'll click on cell D1 because we are referring to cell D1 and we would like to lock this range so that we drag our formula. I'll use function key F4 to lock the cell, and we can close the bracket, press enter, and we get the same answer, which is 11. Now all I need to do is drag the formula down and we can see that our formula works. So let's go ahead and calculate the same for the students who scored or fell below the 50% mark. So we'll type in countif once again, and you'll use the indirect function, indirect of cell B3. Let's close the bracket, and the criteria is less than or equal to 50%. So I'll type in double quotes, less than, equals to, close the double quotes, use an and I'll click on cell E1. We'll lock this cell using F4, close the bracket and press enter, and let's drag our formula down, and we can see that 3 students scored less than or equal to 50% in the final exam. So let's go and validate this first. So we have our final exam and the percentages. So I'll click on the drop down, number filters is less than or equal to, and I'll type in here 0.5 for 50%, click on OK, and we can see that we have 3 counts, which are 3 students who fell below the 50% mark. Now let's go ahead and calculate the minimum, the maximum, the average and the median for the final results. But before we do that, let's derive our final marks using the new xlookup function. So I'll type in xlookup. The lookup value is the student name. I'll put a comma. The lookup array is on the grading sheet, and we're looking for the student names. I'll put a comma, and the return array is now for the final marks. So I'll highlight the final marks. Let's close the bracket, press enter, and we have 57.5%. Now if I need to drag my formulas down, my cell references will change. So we need to lock this range, which is on a different sheet. I'll click on F4, and I'll click on F4 here as well. We'll keep this cell as relative. We don't need to lock this, because when we drag the formula down, our formula will update for the next person. So I'll drag the formula down, and we should have our results for each student. Now let's go ahead and round off these numbers to the highest next number. So in case of 57.5, this should show up as 58. So coming to the formula bar, I will use the round function, and we have 2 arguments. The number is this part. I'll put a comma, and the number of digits that we would like to round is 2 digits. Close the bracket, press enter, and we get 58%. Let's remove the decimal points. Now we can go ahead and find the minimum marks. So I will type in minimum, and it's asking us for the numbers. All we need to do is highlight the numbers, close the bracket, and we get the minimum mark of 58%. Let's find out the maximum in the same way. I'll highlight the range, close the bracket, and we have a maximum of 97%. Let's find the average. And our average is around 74%. We can also find the median, and the median is also a similar measure just like the average. Now you can see that there is a slight difference between the median and the average. So the median is basically the point in the middle. So if we see there are 2 75s here, we have 25 students. So if I highlight this part till 75, we have a count of 12, and if I highlight from here, we have a count of 12 as well on top. So you can see that this point is the median, 75%. So let's move forward and calculate the final grades, and the final grades are based on this table that I've placed here. If the student has scored between 45 to 54%, the student gets an E. If the student scores between 55 and 59, the student gets a D, and so on. So we can calculate using the xlookup once again. The lookup value is the final marks. I'll put a comma. The lookup array is this part. I'll use F4 to lock the range, a comma, and we want to return the grades from here. Let's use F4 to lock this once again. And now the next argument is if not found. We can skip this. I'll put a comma, and here now we need to use a -1 because we need to use the approximate match, just like the old VLOOKUP. So in this case it's an exact match or the next smaller item. So we have the code here, which is -1. I'll type in -1. Let's close the bracket and press enter, and for 58% we get a D. Let's validate this. 58 is between 55 and 60, so the next smaller grade is D, so that's correct. Let's drag our formula down and we should get all our grades. Down below over here I have a table, and I have built a table to see how many students scored from 0 to 50%, how many scored from 51 to 60%, and so on. So we can use the countifs once again. I'll type in countifs, and the criteria range. The criteria range is this part, which is the final marks. I'll lock the range, comma, criteria number 1 is more than 0, so we can type in double quotes, more than or equal to, close the double quotes, use an and we'll click on 0. The second argument is to find less than or equal to 50. So before that we have to highlight the range once again. So I'll highlight the range once again. I'll use F4 to lock it, a comma, and we'll use less than or equal to, use an and I'll click on 50%. Let's close the bracket, press enter, and we can see that there are no students who fall between 0 to 50. Let's drag our formula down, and we have 2 students falling between 51 to 60 and 2 students who fall between the range of 91 to 100. Since we have this, let's highlight this part and let's insert a chart. So I'll click on recommended charts. I'll click on the first clustered bar, click on OK, and we can see that we have our chart here. Let's drag this down. I'll click on the columns, right click, add data labels, and clearly we can see that from 0 to 50% there are no students. The highest number of students fall between the range of 61 to 70, and the second position, which is 8 students, fall between the range of 71 to 80%. And the last analysis that we would like to do is we would like to find the percentile. We can use the percentile function. Let me delete this, and if I want to find the percentile of 90%, which basically means that if we are looking for the percentile of 90%, it will give us a value here, or it will give us a percentage. So I'll type in percentile, and I'll use the percentile.inc, which means include a 0 and 1, or in other terms it includes the minimum as 0 and the maximum as 100%. So I'll double click on this. The array is the marks, and the K is the percentile rank, which is 90%. Let's close the bracket, and we get a percentile ranking of 84%, which basically means that 90% of the values are below 84%. 94% of the values are below 84%, and the rest 10% are above or equal to 84%. So if I highlight the range, and you can see this is sorted from ascending wise. So let's analyze this. 90% of the values. If I highlight this, or let's highlight it from here, 90% would be somewhere around here. So you can see 90% of the values, which is this, lies below 84%. So that's your percentile ranking, and we have seen how to use the countif formula. We have used the min, max, the average, the median, and we have also used our xlookup, and we have used countifs to find the ranges for different bandings of marks. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll put in a link for the Excel file so you can download the file. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for new and interesting videos.